I'm Martin McGuire. I am a full-time wildlife artist and on the board of the Society of Animal Artists. I am here today with one of my fellow signature members, Mick Doellinger. We are in his studio and we're going to ask him a couple of questions, kind of see how he does his work and in what way does he do his work. So, hi Mick, nice to visit you and in your studio. So the first question is, why did you choose bronze to express yourself?
I like the permanence of the medium, something that I know is going to be there for a long time. I played with terracotta clay to begin with, but I ended up with bronze and I'm happy there, although it's an expensive medium to work with.
That's the truth. So many people don't realize the money that goes into bronze because you have to send them to a foundry. In your case, you do that, but then you actually then bring the bronzes back and do the
patinas. I do the patinas myself just because I like to bury them, and I have more control that way as opposed to standing in a foundry and trying to explain to somebody what I want.
Yeah, that's part of the thing that people don't understand. A bronze is not just made from a mold and they all come out the same. Each one is individual, and how much time the artist in particular spends on that piece may vary between artists, and you've chosen to do your own work once it's cast and do your own patinas, the coloration, and as we discussed earlier, there's different ways of doing it and different colors and how hot the metal is, and you've come up with a lot of your own patinas.
Yeah, and no, even within the same edition, no two are identical. There are always some variations there. I try to keep things somewhat similar, but you know, they just vary. They vary, you know.
So, what made you interested in depicting animals in your work?
From my earliest recollections, I was always just fanatical about animals. I mean, it drove my parents nuts. I can't think of a time in my life that wasn't the dominant focus in my life, animals. So, you know, as a kid, I had rabbits and ferrets and pigeons and picked up all the stray dogs I could, and horses, everything, you name it, ran the full gamut. I guess you're either an animal person or you're not. I suppose some people come to it later on, you know, meet somebody and suddenly get interested in wildlife, and that with me, as I got older, it just gave me the opportunity to visit more countries and experience different animals.
Well, obviously with your accent, you are not from the U.S. And you're from Australia. Did you grow up in the field? I mean, did your parents live on a farm?
No, it was sort of outer suburbs of the city of Melbourne. And, you know, I managed to be able to keep horses and that and so on there. Not from a farming background, but in my teen years, at 15, I started doing rodeo, so I started traveling around the country. Following the rodeo circuit, I came to California first in 1979 to do rodeos, I just always.
So when did you come to the U.S. then?
To live?
Yeah.
03. 03 is when I got a work visa here. So I've been working here full time.
Cool. Okay. So you talked about visiting other countries. How important is research and field work to you in your work?
Very important to see animals out there in their natural habitat, interacting with each other, you know, herd animals and such. It's just, you know, photos are a good reference source, but you can only get so much from them. So you need that field time just to see how animals act. And it's invaluable. It's invaluable.
Particularly for three-dimensional work. One photo isn't going to tell you what you need to know on all the angles that you're working on bronze. You have to see the animal in the wild and think of it, three-dimensionality of it.
Well, to me, it's more the idea. I mean, I have a fair understanding, I think, of anatomy now, so I can do something in a different shape than I've seen before. But obviously, when you're out there, you know, if you want to do, you know, a running antelope or something like that, and you have pictures of that, I mean, it gives you a better idea of their action, their motion, and so on. But as far as needing the the images from all sides, which you're not going to get.
So that brings me to an interesting question then. So when you're working on your bronzes, do you have photos that you're looking at as you're doing them, or at the point that you've gotten an idea from being out in the field, then you just jump into the clay or wax or whatever it is that you're working from, or do you have, you know, reference available right there with you?
I'll use reference. All kinds of a lot of my reference will be more of a certain portion of an animal rather than the whole animal, like a painter would look at reference. So it's more portions. You know, I've got the shape of the animal there. It's doing such and such, and so I'm just trying to tie it all together. You know, so you have reference of feet or hooves or something, or a nose or ears or eyes close up. And that's the kind of reference that is invaluable to the sculptor.
And a lot of sculptors that I know, and you included, are also a taxidermist. And so I assume that you feel has a value in understanding the anatomy of the animal.
In my case, it helped a lot. You know, being in Australia, when I started taxidermy in California first, in 1979, and so then when I went back to Australia, I pursued it, did part-time for a couple of years, and then got into it full-time. Well, in this country, you have all these supply companies that taxidermists will buy their mannequins that they put the skins on. In Australia, that wasn't the case, so I had to start building my own mannequins, which involved wiring skeletons together, sculpting over skeletons, clay sculptures, and then making fiberglass molds, and then pouring polyurethane foam into those molds in which I could reproduce the forms that I used. And of course, I did hundreds of those early on, very, very poorly, and gradually I got better at them. And I think it gave me a good grounding with just handling all those bones, putting them together so you understand how skeletons articulate. A big help. And also my background before that, I was a butcher by trade. So working in meat packing plants around Australia, as I rodeoed in Australia when I was young, a lot of the cowboys those days would work in these big meat packing plants because it was seasonal work, and it paid well because it was you got paid by the piece, not by the hour. So everybody would be going very fast, and so having done hundreds of thousands of dissections there, not that at the time I'm thinking of sculpting. I mean, this is a job and it's money, but you can't put X amount of jigsaw puzzles together or take them apart and not learn something about anatomy. So I've come to sculpting in a different way than most people, but
I think a lot of people have their own path, and that's quite interesting that yours. So that sort of feeds into, how did you develop the Mick Doellinger style? I mean, how did you decide sort of what the style was in your work that you wanted to depict?
I think, for me, developing my style took a long time. I did my first sculpture at the age of 11, and so always played with it, over the years and that. But in Australia, there's not a strong market for sculpture, for bronze sculpture. So then, when I got into taxidermy, I was sculpting some more scientific sculpting mannequins, but I also would do, a couple of bronzes or something and sell them at shows and other different clients I had. I think, most people, especially from a taxidermy background, tend to start doing very tight work. You're wanting to get all that hair texture. You're actually wanting to replicate a little animal, doing a miniature replica of an animal. And the more you learn, the more you look at, you tend to want to get away from that and develop a style or a voice. And I think that is the problem for all sculptors and painters, is developing that mark that looks like you, where your work can be identified. And there's nothing quick about it, and I don't know how. It's not something you can force. You play around, you experiment until something feels good, you start doing that, and then you just evolve into your style, and then you find after a number of years that your style hasn't really changed much, and now you have the style.
Voice, as you said. That's great. So how long have you been working full-time as an artist?
10 years. 10 years now. Just doing the selling bronze sculptures. Before that I just did it part-time as well as taxidermy.
And that was when you came to the United States, you were still doing taxidermy, and then, so that, yeah.
Yeah,
So then
from
the,
03 to 06 I did taxidermy and then started doing more sculptures and started selling them and gradually it took over and I could leave the taxidermy behind.
Good. Right. I think that is all the questions that we have today, and I appreciate so much you letting us come into your studio. It was fun.
Thanks for stopping by, Dan. I
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Yep. Okay.
Bye.
Did we sound professional?
I thought it sounded great.
Good, actually.